Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica and our continuing series on the Hyper Neo Geo 64. Today we're taking a look at Buriki One, World Grapple Tournament 99, and I will say that it is the most unique fighting game I have ever played, and definitely the most unique game on the Hyper Neo Geo 64. And that's all down to how the game controls. Now granted, it's a fighting game, and SNK is well known for them, but they did something with this that I've never seen before, and I've never seen since. In a normal fighting game, your fight stick controls your movement, and your 4 or 6 button setup controls your attacks. That is the complete opposite in Buriki One. A button, move backwards. B button, move forward. And all of your attacks are set up with the fight stick. Depending on how you move it, depending on how you set up your attacks, depending on how you charge the stick, you're going to get a completely different set of attacks. And it makes the game feel so much more dynamic. When an attack hits, you feel it because you put the input in with the stick. So when you jab forward quickly and you get a jab with our boxer here, it feels like you actually executed the move. And then when you charge a haymaker up and you pull the stick back and then thrust it forward quickly, it feels like you're actually throwing the punch as much as you ever could while playing an arcade game. And that is why I think that this is an amazing game that is so unique and unlike anything I've ever played before. So basically, the entire setup is, it is a fighting tournament. It all takes place in this arena here. Now the arena changes depending on what fight you're in. I get a quick knockout there, but I do love the Boss Coffee logo on the mat. And there's definitely a lot of sponsorship in this game from real brands. I mean, you have Konica Minolta, a camera company, in an arcade game. And I just think that's super interesting. But definitely, this is something that you should experience with a real fight stick because it just feels so unique and so different. Now, I play the entire game through with Python because as far as the character is concerned, that is the character, for me, that felt the most effective, and it gave me the best sense of direct feedback into the stick. As far as how the game works, is you have your life meter up there, and like any other fighting game, each attack is going to do some sort of damage, but as opposed to a life meter going down, that heartbeat meter goes up and you'll hear your heartbeat until you have no health left or your heart has gotten too fast and the match is over. And what happened in this run through, and you'll see more later, is I won every single match, my first attempt, except for the boss. And this game is on hard difficulty because generally I actually think it's not the hardest game in the world once you understand the different control schemes and how they work. Each fighter has a different play style, and there's some moves that can only be executed in certain situations. Python here has an elbow that he drops on people's heads and backs if he is in a grapple, and that's the only time you can use an elbow is when you're in that particular setup. So I do like how unique this game feels. Other characters, when they're on the ground, they're going to have some different leg sweeps and kicks that aren't available when they're standing up. And that's something that you have to read your opponent and you have to read the situation and queue up the best attack for that moment in time. And it feels totally different than something like Samurai Showdown or King of Fighters or any other 2D or even 3D fighting game from that standpoint, just because on how that stick works. And it is just the strangest thing. It probably didn't make sense when it came out in arcades, but when you really take time to play the game and get a sense of how it controls, it just has this feeling that directly connects you to your character that no other fighting game I've ever played has. Now, the movesets are definitely more limited than a fighting game because you don't really have a ton of super attacks. There's not going to be any flashy visual fair going on. SNK definitely wanted this to feel like an actual MMA tournament. The ring out, you can use it, it's kind of effective, but really there's no damage taken and you're not going to win a match by doing ring out. So sometimes what you want to do is actually give your opponent a little bit more time to come towards you, because then maybe you can charge up one of those haymaker attacks for Python and just completely knock them out. So now you're going to see we're up against a sumo wrestler, and the entire hook of this game is that each character has their own fighting style, and you can learn how it works or you have to fight against it. You'll see the sumo here keeps trying to grapple me and knock me down to the ground, and that is kind of his play style, as he wants you to get on the ground so that he can kind of hammer you from there. But you will see I'm able to just take those jabs, set up those backhands. I don't think that's really a boxing move, swiping backhand with your glove, but in this game it is. But you can just totally knock him into next Tuesday, and everything feels really great. I'll let you guys watch the next match just so you can hear a little bit of the soundtrack, and I'll come back and talk more of the game. But enjoy the next match. We'll see how I do.
Versus Bill. Ready, fight!
almost impossible to relay what something feels in your hand in a video, but when I hit that punch, when it landed, when I thrust the arcade stick forward, it felt like I had actually connected. And that, like I said, is more interesting than any other fighting game I've ever played as far as how it controls. And this is something that you just definitely should experience. Now, it never got ported off the Hyper Neo Geo 64, but I think it would have been a great setup for the Nintendo 64. Now, granted, the analog stick is not a fight stick, it's much smaller, but you could have gotten those nice directional inputs with something like, a ball-top fight stick converting over to an analog stick. It wouldn't be great on a D-pad, I don't think it would feel the same. But you'll see there I got grappled and my leg is a little injured, and Python will move a little bit slower until he recovers, so there is some real-time damage effect where your movement is going to be slightly delayed depending on what just happened to your character and what part of the body was affected. I think that gives it an extra layer as well to the actual gameplay mechanic, is that you have to, on the fly, alter how you're going to play depending on what part of your body was injured or if you're staggered or not. And you'll see on this fight I definitely take a lot more damage. The game gets much harder as you get further into the tournament. But there's one of those moves that can only be done in that grapple. Tendo grabs your leg and you can drop an elbow on his back, and there I knock him out, and you can't use that elbow move until you're in the grapple. So learning the controls and knowing what directions to push and what directions to push in each scenario are definitely going to help you become much better at this game. And that is something that I think, unlike any other game, you have to read the situation, you have to react, but it's slow enough so that you can think about it and you can kind of plan ahead, versus some other fighting games that move a lot faster and can sometimes feel more reactionary versus you're trying to get some situational awareness. I'll let you watch this cutscene for a second, it's kind of fun, and I'll come back and talk about the boss fight, because it is quite interesting.
Ready, fight!
Now, in traditional SNK fashion, the final boss becomes infinitely harder than the rest of the game. I have beat this game many times, and today I'm just going to show you a compilation of me getting my butt handed to me. Now, you can play as Silver if you defeat him with every single character in the game, and I've never spent that much time to do it, because there are a lot of characters for sure, but it's something you can do. Something I didn't mention, and something that doesn't appear in this capture because it never happened, is you can tie a match, or you can go to the judges. If your timer runs out, it goes to a decision. I do love the nurse and doctor there as you're just sitting there, heavy breathing on the mat. It's just a nice little touch to kind of tie the whole game into feeling like a real fighting tournament. But coming up soon, you're going to see exactly how my match against Silver goes, and for some reason today, I just didn't have it in me to be able to beat him. Now, I've beaten him on the first round many times before. Maybe it was lag in the capture, who knows. Normally I play this on a PVM before the capture went directly into a CRT, but I took another knockout right there. I was close to beating him a few times, but I do show some of the more interesting losses because the ending one I think is hilarious, and you'll see that shortly. But I love the little torches in the background. The final stage definitely feels more dramatic with the music and everything going on, but watch this. It seems like every time you get Silver on the ropes, you get a couple good punches in, a flying kick comes out of nowhere and completely destroys you. And that's just how it works sometimes. I lost 37 times in a row until I finally said, that's enough. You guys don't need to see the ending. It's not that interesting. But this final match is definitely indicative of what it feels like to fight Silver. But before that, I will just say, check this game out. Grab it. It's great. If you have a chance to play it, by all means do. If you do us a huge favor, hit like and subscribe. These take a lot of time. But here comes the ending to my match, and it is very apropos to how it felt fighting him. Take a few kicks, another punch, and I get kicked right in the balls, and I die. That's how it felt fighting him. Short of that, we'll be back on Friday with another episode, as well as on Sunday, but thanks so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Have a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.